In this lesson, you'll learn more about the checkbox control, which you've only seen very briefly at this point. A checkbox is simply a box that the user can check or uncheck. You have probably seen them while browsing the internet. In the same way as all ASP.NET controls, the checkbox control is converted into HTML code when the page is sent to a web browser. The checkbox control is based on the HTML input checkbox control, but adds more features. Although it is possible to use the controls from the HTML category in ASP.NET, it's almost always better to use ASP.NET's equivalent from the standard category of the toolbox. To begin this lesson, open the My Project sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open controlstest.aspx in Design View, if it isn't open already. Now add a checkbox control to the page. Set the ID property of the new checkbox control to checkbox test. Much like the literal control, the checkbox control displays a placeholder containing its ID unless you set its text property. Next, you're going to make the checkbox control checked by default. To do this, set the checked property to true. The control is now checked by default. Now set the text property to confirm. The text appears to the right of the checkbox control. Now set the text align property to left, and this makes the text appear to the left of the checkbox instead of to the right. Note that if you want to create a page with lots of checkbox choices, you should be aware of the checkbox list control. Checkbox list controls are very similar to drop-down list controls, except the items are shown as checkboxes instead of in a drop-down menu. You'll learn more about drop-down list controls and other list-based controls later in this session. Next, add a checked changed event handler to your checkbox control. You learned how to add event handlers to controls in Lesson 3.2. Click the Events button in the Properties window and double-click in the empty box after Checked Changed. The checked changed event happens when the user checks or unchecks the checkbox. Now add the following code to the new event handler. Response.write checkbox test.checked.toString. This code will display the checked property of your checkbox control on the page. You can see here that the textbox_test text changed event has been left in place from the previous lesson. This code will cause an error, so be sure to delete it before continuing. Now view controlstest.aspx in your web browser. And uncheck checkbox test. Nothing happens despite the checked changed event handler being in place. This is because the form hasn't been posted back. Close your web browser now and return to controlstest.aspx in Design View. Now you're going to make the checkbox test control post back when it is clicked. To do this, set its Auto Post Back property to true. Now view the page in your browser again and uncheck the checkbox. This time, the page posts back when you click the checkbox, and the event handler code writes the current status of the checkbox onto the screen. True means that the checkbox is checked, and false means that the box is unchecked. Note that, instead of setting the Auto Post Back property, you could also have added a button control to the page, as you did in Lesson 4.4. Close your browser now, and remove the checkbox and the event handler that you created. Now close Visual Studio, saving your changes if prompted. You've now completed Lesson 4.5. Use the checkbox control.